there you have it.
Yes.
Our affiliate KABC, those gruesome aerial shots, a dark SUV. You saw the windows shot out, blown out, a very gruesome scene. They're deliberately staying removed. We're not going to show the body that apparently is there on the scene as well. Tom Fuentes, you're watching what's going on very precisely, and it's a very gruesome scene. Art Roderick is watching as well, Cedric Alexander, Jim Sciutto. Tom, it looks like this is an active situation right now, that it's not been resolved yet.
No, they're still trying to determine if someone else is in that vehicle. And of course, you know, SUVs like that often have dark enough tinted glass that you can't see through it easily from the outside. So we don't know if it's a good guy or bad guy down on the street, but there still could be somebody in that van. Because it's someone, it could be a police officer, could be one of the suspects if there's more than one, right? Right. Art, what do you think?
They got to be careful here, because obviously this is a residential neighborhood. You're talking about high-powered rifles, and law enforcement is taught, you know, you've got to have a target to shoot at. So I know from the law enforcement side they're being very careful, but you can see they're using actual front yards and fences there of people's neighborhoods to make sure that they've got a good angle on this particular vehicle.
Shooting at my work, people shot in the office waiting for cops.
It is not a safe area to be. It's very dangerous.
We were all supposed to get back into our office and find the section. We were able to lock the doors.
There was an active shooter, and we needed to stay and get all staff behind locked doors. So we stayed there until the SWAT teams came in and evacuated us.
I heard rapid shooting, just boom, 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 boom.
I was just walking down, and this lady and a couple others heard shots, and I heard from over there, but then I started walking, and all of a sudden I got into chaos.
You can see some people being treated there.
They are heavily armed, and they are possibly wearing body armor, things of that nature.
Large armed response here by the Sheriff's Department.
Someone had come in and started shooting, and they ran into an office, and she's hiding with some other people.
She said the guy came in next to her office and I guess started shooting. They locked themselves in her office. They seen bodies on the floor, and she said right now ambulance are taking people out.
She was shuttled into a room. Police showed up. They were taken outside. Thank God there weren't more casualties.
Some of the people who we're speaking with out here, who are communicating with their relatives via text message. One gentleman I spoke with, I understand we may have this video. This is cell phone video from a woman who was inside the building during the shooting. She was a bit of a distance away from where the shots were being fired, but you can see the first officers arriving here. There was a massive police response. It wasn't just the local police officers. The county sheriffs, because you can see the various uniforms, were immediately on scene. And meanwhile, all of the people who are inside the building describe how they're using all the furniture to block the doors. They're trying to remain calm while they're seeing the officers rushing into their building.
Preliminary information indicates that these are people that came prepared, that they were dressed and equipped in a way to indicate that they were prepared, and they were armed with long guns, not handguns. The only thing I'm comfortable saying at this point is that the information we have is that they came prepared to do what they did, as if they were on a mission. As the teams were going through and searching for the suspects and searching for victims, there were some things in the building that were not immediately identifiable that caused them some concern. As a result of that, we do have some BIME techs that are on site that are checking some of that out. I do not know if they were brought in by the suspects. We do not know if they are bombs of any sort, just simply things that as our teams were moving through said that needs to be looked at a little bit more closely.
No render safes at this point. They haven't taken anything apart or destroyed anything.
I don't have any information on that. What we have so far is information that up to 3 people had entered the building and had opened fire on people inside of the building. We do have some preliminary numbers of upwards of 14 people that are dead and upwards of 14 people that are injured. We think those are pretty reliable, but keep in mind those are potentially subject to change. They are preliminary numbers. The 14 that are wounded have been taken to various area hospitals. In addition to the law enforcement response, there was a massive medical aid response from San Diego City Fire Department, other area fire departments, as well as the ambulance, American Medical Response. As officers initially arrived on scene, they went into the active shooter protocols, the things that we trained for. They immediately entered the building in search of the suspects. Initial information is that the suspects were potentially still inside of the building. It is a massive facility, employs several hundred people, and it's taken a long time to clear the building. In fact, I think we still have assets inside that are completing that clearing process. Information that I think is probably the most reliable at this point is that the suspects have fled, potentially in a dark-colored SUV. We do not have any identification on who those suspects are. We do not know what the motive is for the shooting at this point.
The president has been responding with increasing frequency to these reports of shootings. He was just sitting down for an interview with CBS News. That interview, we're told, was temporarily, postponed until the president got a briefing, a bit more information about the situation in San Bernardino as federal authorities now know it. Now listen to some of what the president said to CBS in that interview.
Well, we don't know that much yet. It's still an active situation. FBI is on the ground offering assistance to local officials as they need it. It does appear that there are going to be some casualties, and obviously our hearts go out to the victims and the families. The one thing we do know is that we have a pattern now of mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world. And there's some steps we could take, not to eliminate every one of these mass shootings, but to improve the odds that they don't happen as frequently.
And Jake, the president has been responding to these shootings a lot. Just over the weekend, the White House put out a statement that's really seemingly applicable right now, though we don't have all the facts about what happened in California, saying in part, this is not normal. We can't let it become normal if we truly care about this, meaning shootings like this. If we're going to offer up our thoughts and prayers again for God knows how many times with a truly clean conscience, then we have to do something about the easy accessibility of weapons of war on our street.
Tell me more about the community you serve. I understand there's several hundred people who work at Inland Regional Center. Tell me more about the services you provide to San Bernardino and Riverside counties.
We provide services for the developmentally disabled. We help them with housing and with programs. And we have clients that are, from infants to elderly.
In terms of this building, in order to go to work, talk to me about security.
We have badges. There are gates. We all have to swipe our badges in order to get not only into the campus but into each building. It's tight.
Metal detectors, anything like that?
No metal detectors.
Do you have any I understand that there were alarms going off and that there were drills. I was hearing from a father whose daughter works in the building that you all have been going through drills. And I don't know if it was in a case like this or for something else, but is that the case?
We always do. They're very, very good about staying on top of, fire drills. We do have what we call active shooter training.
You do?
Yeah, we do.
When did that begin?
It started last year. And I do think that they were starting now, they're going through the rounds now with that training.
So active shooter training happening at your workplace, and here we have potentially 3 active shooters at lunchtime on what should have been a normal day. What about cameras in your building, Kristen? Do you have cameras throughout your workplace?
I don't know. There are people that think we have cameras. There are people that think that there aren't cameras. I don't really know.
And how many people work in your building?
It's hard to say. There are 3 buildings on the campus, and then there's another building in Riverside. So I do know there are over 600 employees total, but I don't know exactly how many employees are in each building.
And I don't know if you flipped on the television, but we've been watching pictures over the last hour and a half of your coworkers walking out, hands up in the air. And I don't know if you've been able to recognize the specific building from where they have been exiting. Can you tell me more about that?
I've recognized some faces.
You have.
So they have evacuated. It looks like all buildings. Or they are doing all buildings. I don't know. I can't tell, if everyone's out or not, but I recognize faces from more than one building, I'll say that.
You have. And this was, lunchtime. What would people be doing on campus in these different buildings around 11, 12 o'clock?
The thing is, some people, they walk around the campus. There's a nice little trail around the campus. Some people take walks. Some people... have lunch there on campus. Some leave for lunch, of course. And this intersection you have to come out of this intersection to leave the campus.
The reason that police think that there may have been as many as 3 people involved in this shooting is that several sources actually, witnesses told police that they saw 3 men. And apparently the suspects got into a black SUV and then exited the parking lot. Now, the sheriff's bomb squad found a suspicious package on the 2nd floor when a SWAT team was clearing the building. And so right now you've got a bomb squad and an explosive ordnance disposal team, which is basically looking at the device, and they're going to deal with that device robotically. So although the building itself appears to be cleared of people, right now they're looking to make sure that no devices were left, though they do believe that one is suspicious. We do know that the sheriff's homicide unit is heading to the command post, and you've got a number of SWAT teams that are responding to this from San Bernardino, Riverside County, also Orange County SWAT. But the reason they believe that there are 3 individuals is because witnesses told police that they saw 3 men with what appeared to be long rifles leaving that scene. And they're now looking for a black SUV right now, Brooke.
She said the guy came in next to her office and I guess started shooting. They locked themselves in her office. They seen bodies on the floor, and she said right now ambulance are taking people out in stretchers. She was able to get out of the building already, but there's still people inside.
Was she hurt? Is she okay?
No, she's okay. She said SWAT is already inside right now.
Did she tell you what the suspects looked like?
She said all you heard was the shots. She didn't get a chance to see anything.
Okay. And what business does she work in?
In the Regional Center.
Okay. And what do they do at that business?
She works with kids with disabilities.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many people are typically in the building this time of day?
It's a pretty big building. I don't know, probably a couple hundred.
Mm-hmm. How did you first hear about what happened?
She texted me. She said she was inside, that there was a shooter outside shooting, that she's locked in her office. She said, "I love you," and I came over here.
They help with handicapped personnel, people, it might be, they do all different types of deals. They supply aid to them. They pay the contractors that actually supply the aid to them. They get them services. They interface between the state and federal on supplying benefits and assistance to people with handicapped children, and the children can go all the way up into adults, because it might be a child that's newborn that has handicap, and then they, and they're in the system until they pass. They have a facility where the kids and stuff come in, but generally there's not a lot of them. This is more of the work behind the scenes that takes place here.
Someone had come in and started shooting, and they ran into an office, and she's hiding with some other people. And our friend's daughter's in there too, and she texted, and so they're both hiding. She said, shooting at my work, people shot, in the office waiting for cops.
But she's okay.
Pray for us. I am locked in an office. That's it.
And we didn't know what was going on.
So when you stepped outside, I don't know how recent that was, Sita, but what did you see?
It was a lot of helicopters, a lot of police sirens going on, a lot of traffic, and that's all we can see and hear from right here.
And what about the kids in your charter school? Are they being told to stay there?
Yes, they are. Actually, we have locked our front doors and closed our gates to where the students would have to stay in until we get further notice. And actually, no one's came by to. So we're just sitting here waiting until we hear from someone.
You're waiting to hear from law enforcement sort of to give you some guidance on what to do with your school.
Yes.
All right, Sita Wilson, thank you so much for calling from a charter school, as she described, 5 houses down from this area.
Drop the gun! You're next, you understand me? One down.
All the scenarios are geared towards events that have already occurred.
We got a shooter down.
The environments that they put us in typically are schools, but we make everybody aware that active shooter can happen anywhere. In churches, and movie theaters, places where there's a large mass of people that are really not expecting something to happen like that.
He's down! I'm reloading!
Across the country that active shooters are becoming more and more evident and problematic.
Let me see your hand!
We're teaching them how to approach a location, how to get in. Our number one goal in teaching active shooters is to stop the killing. But the second goal that we're looking for is to stop the dying.
Mary, where you at? I'll call you when I find you, God dang it!
Well, active shooter is probably one of the worst scenarios a police officer can handle. Life or death. It's what we're paid for. We need to neutralize the threat to save lives.
The simunition training, it's as close to real life as you can get them. Their heart rate is spiking. They're nervous. It's the best you're ever going to do without actually shooting real bullets at a person.
There have been, suspicious men with guns, but no shots have been fired kind of thing, and they're coming in to investigate, and it turns into a shooting. They've dealt with explosives, IED kind of awareness.
I'm gonna kill him in 10 seconds. 10, 9.
They're also dealing with hostage situations.
Training builds confidence. A lot of these guys don't have much confidence because they don't get environments like this.
The lessons we learn under stress is the lessons we retain the longest.
I mean, this was actually a really good job. All this done right here.
Weeks after they've gone through the training, they've actually been involved in incidences, and it's helped them survive those incidences, so it is helping.
Active shooter incident in Southern California outside a social service office in San Bernardino. Authorities say at least one person opened fire, and early reports said that as many as 20 people were wounded.
Someone had come in and started shooting, and they ran into an office, and she's hiding with some other people. And our friend's daughter's in there too, and she texted, and so they're both hiding.
The San Bernardino Police Department said via Twitter it had confirmed up to 3 possible suspects and multiple victims in the shooting, but a clear picture of the scene was still coming in. The Los Angeles Times says the shooting happened around 11 a.m. local time, and a police spokeswoman told the Times the suspects were heavily armed, possibly wearing body armor. A spokeswoman from nearby Loma Linda Medical Center said the hospital was expecting patients and was on standby to treat the wounded.
First pictures from Sky 9
of the scene, and you see a number of
look at the people
law
being escorted
enforcement.
away,
And they do have their hands up, as you can see there.
Yes, and you see a number of law enforcement on the scene right now, escorting these people outside or drawing these people outside. Perhaps the image, the still image that we saw earlier was of these folks holding their hands up.
And it looks like there was quite a number of people inside that building. Now police, look at that, asking them to go outside. They're being escorted out.
You see the man in the red
hands up, right?
Hands up.
Hands up.
Yeah.
Again, you assume everybody, you want everybody just to show your hands, provide no further threat to any kind of authorities, and make sure that they are out and away from the building, and then the authorities can decide who is what in this kind of situation. And certainly someone who's complying, hopefully, you can
look at
decipher
that.
who's
Look at the line of people there.
Now, what's interesting is that that they're getting people out of the building, and it is not necessarily a shelter in place where they are, that may say something. In some of these situations, you have the folks shelter in place. They keep everybody in the building, but if there's some threat to them, they want to get them out. And you can see how big this.
They were hidden behind the big pile of mattresses and on. I was going to say, your daughter?
Do you know anything about what's going on?
We just know our daughters.
Have you been able to talk to her?
Yeah.
I'll text her back.
She's texting us.
Okay.
She's hiding.
Okay. Can we ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
Hey, another interview tape. Right over here, sir. And so, what's your name?